Men of Reddit, what are some less obvious red flags about men you would want to caution women against? Don't trust a man who can joke about others but can't take it when you have to cater to his needs wants over your own with no compromise. It can be something as only watching shows that he wants or doing things only he wants to do or ordering takeout that only he likes. Any aversion to taking responsibility. The older I get the more I find that the men I respect most aren't the ones with great achievements to their names, but rather the ones who aren't afraid to own their shit. You'll be able to tell if a guy is nice by how he behaves. If a guy tells you he's nice, ignore that. That's meaningless. This goes for both genders, but don't date someone under the assumption that they'll change something fundamental about themselves. Not fair to either of you. If anything happens to him and he always shifts blame to someone else, or something else, or the situation, that is a big red flag. Sooner or later everything will be your fault. Also, if their story, complaint, rant, or explanation sounds too one-sided, again unable to take blame themselves, they are lacking empathy. Red flag. If he's dumb, but thinks he's smart. If they verbally attack you in an argument rather than discuss the issue. If they constantly shit-talk other guys. If he starts throwing tantrums over petty things, there is worse on the horizon. He's not passionate, he's unstable. If you hear a little voice inside you that says I can change this man, he is not the man for you. When someone is declaring multiple times they are not a certain way without prompt, they are actually that way. When they don't respect the word no, even in the most benign of circumstances. If a guy is doing the minimum of what you want in a long-term relationship at the beginning, it's going to be well below your standards after a few years. I would expect about half of what you see in the first year. If they behave like they know everything, change is certainly not their cup of tea. Blaming their childhood on treating you and others like rubbish. This one is extremely obvious, yet I've seen dozens of women still make the same mistake. If he's rude, selfish and possessive before you're dating, he will not change once you start dating. I don't know why so many women think that a man will have an epiphany and become better once they get in a relationship. People very rarely change when he looks to you as his sole source of happiness, entertainment. This usually means that they lack the ability to manage their own emotions or have healthy coping mechanisms. In addition, if you are in it for the long term, there will be times that you will get sick of each other and a guy needs some hobbies that can take his attention away to give you space. This can be an open door for manipulation. If he doesn't want to talk about awkward stuff while you're dating, then he might not want to talk about awkward problems in the relationship. Many men only know how to relationship flirt. They will say things like I'm looking for something long-term when really they just want to hook up. If he's a selfish lover in bed, he'll likely be a selfish partner in life. A green flag to look for is long-term friendships. Long-term friends require good communication skills and emotional intelligence. It's also a pretty good indicator that they're willing to compromise for someone's emotional needs. Constantly indirect, it's leaving wiggle room so he can claim he wasn't lying later. Lots of gossip. If he talks about other people, he'll talk about you. As someone who is very guilty of this, focusing a ton on you and your needs, but hardly paying attention to their own. Someone like this can come across as sweet, selfless, and caring, but they're actually avoiding their own problems to focus on yours. You're not a partner to them, you're a distraction. And even they themselves may not realize it. If he says all my exes are crazy and tells you stories about all of them where he's always the victim, run. If he tries to make you feel crazy and validate your feelings for being uncomfortable about something or for having boundaries, run. If they don't like dinosaurs, if he's always sucking his own dick, he'll probably end up with back problems later in life, and the last thing you need is a guy with back problems. I'm coming in late, but this is something I've tried to teach all my daughters. Men will show you how they feel with their actions. If they say they care, but don't put in the effort, listen to the actions, not the words. Good advice for dating, but also good advice for life really. If he isn't on the same level of maturity of you, regardless of age, don't go for it. One of you will turn into the parent. Sober men trying to pick up super drunk women. Overpleasers. They never seem to have their own opinion, especially if it conflicts with yours. Yes, men are for corporations, not relationships. If they like to solve problems with violence, then just keep in mind that you may be the source of problems at some point. Seems no one has brought up this. Triangular flag on post, triangular flag on post, triangular flag on post, when he says, don't worry about working, I'll take care of you. Does he mean it's okay for now, or does he mean he low-key doesn't want you to have the means to leave if when things go bad? There is a huge difference between support and sabotage, but they come in a similar looking package sometimes. If what he loves about you is how you make him feel and or the things you do for him rather than who you are, what you like, your goals and shared interests. If he's not kind to strangers like people in service industry, chances are he's hiding his true character when he's with you, and it'll eventually converge to how he treats others. If he's mean to servers, but nice to you, He's not a nice person. Alcoholics are not the best bet. Him making fun of you in front of his friends or your friends. Cute teasing can be mildly tolerated, but actually making fun of you? No thanks. If it seems too good to be true, it is. Date based on actions, not on words. If they say Lego is for kids. Emotional reactivity, anger, blaming and shaming in arguments or time stress. Get out now. Love bombing. If you guys aren't in high school struck by puppy love, this is just a manipulation tactic. Just my opinion, but somebody who respects the women or men they're dating aren't going to tell you they love you and see a future with you in the first couple of weeks. Not sure if this is more universal, though Reddit will correct me if you have a guy friend and they say that another guy gives off weird vibes or only wants one thing, consider their opinion. Many of us have a sense about these things. Unearned confidence knows everything acts like you should feel privileged to be with around them, bases his entire identity on a single thing. I've seen stories of guys who rage and break their things when gaming. As someone who has been playing video games for about 20 years now, that is not normal, nor is it okay. Like swearing, sure, that's understandable, but getting angry and breaking stuff ain't it. It's just violent behavior and a red flag. The men who are 40 plus but still act like they are just fresh out of high school. Spend money like it's no tomorrow without a plan for the future. Looks at every girl as a score or a fun time, flakes on you for games or to hang with the brothers, and thinks of his own self over you. You want a kind man, not a nice man guy. Nice is transactional. Kindness is given freely. When a man talks way more than they listen. Men who make fun of the way someone looks, especially older men. Many guys do this when they are young and obnoxious, but most grow out of it. You can have the thought that someone is butt ugly, but you keep it to yourself. Or at least you should. Takes maturity and the realization that people are born who they are, and not all of them are eye candy. It's gross for the person on the receiving end, and it makes the guy saying it look like a mean-spirited dick. I would suggest a list of questions around self-care, self-reflection, the ability to recognize mistakes, and the ability to talk about his emotions. What kind of reason would you need to go to therapy? What are the personal teachings of your past relationships? What did you change? Why? What is according to you a good emotional connection? What was the biggest fight of your past relationship where you changed your stance later on? Stay away from people who treat fast food retail workers like shit. They probably have never worked a real day in their life. I'm a really nice guy. If he has to tell you, chances are he isn't. ITT the most obvious red flags listed in every red flags post. I think being passive-aggressive is a way bigger deal than people think. Be wary of love bombing and overly grand gestures, especially at the beginning of dating. 100 roses, going out to restaurants almost every other night, expensive and flashy gifts. All of those things are meant to distract you from a severely abusive person and trap you in an emotionally abusive prison. Best to wait for him to get over his issues with his mother before starting a relationship. Keeps dancing around the subject of commitment. If he wants to commit, you'll know. I'd say whining. If a guy tells you how about he was supposed to be or have this and that but got fucked over, 90 of the time they turn out to be the sort of person that expects things handed to them on a silver platter. Or worse, expect them getting what they want is the norm and get angry when they don't. If he never really seems to apologize for anything, even if you both know he's clearly in the wrong. I'm sorry you feel that way. If you're dating a man incapable of doing things for himself, he's a lost cause. No one mentioned the replacement mom issue. I unfortunately had some friends who thought that once they get into a serious relationship that it's the woman's sole purpose to clean after them. No man children. If he believes relationships without arguments or screaming matches are doomed for lack of passion, he probably hasn't learned to communicate in a healthy way. If he never admits when he's wrong, even when it comes to things that don't matter, he's likely a narcissist. If he never disagrees with you, it means he's putting in a show. Be prepared for that to change at some point. Sort of the opposite, but in my life I've found that people who constantly read are more open to new ideas, changing themselves, and perhaps a negative buying a crap load of books. If you want a man to change, prepare for disappointment. So about his last 3 relationships and why they ended. If it is always the girl was crazy, it's him, Hess crazy. He is not liked by basically any other guy, only women. Can't tell you how many douchebags I've met that are suddenly charismatic as soon as a girl he wants to fuck her friends or around. Narcissists might seem attractive and charismatic, but it's not because they're special. It's because they're narcissists. If they find you sexy or convenient, beware of being used. If you end up cooking, cleaning, and doing the laundry, you have a child. My roommate, who would never fuck, expects me to do all this shit for him and I don't have to wonder why he's alone. I'm a guy, BTW. If he's the type of person who hates everyone except you, he's not a good guy. The bad boy archetype isn't real, he just thinks he's better than everyone, and as you stop being useful or giving him what he wants, he'll turn on you too. Edit punctuation. My great-grandmother always said make a guy very drunk. Does he become nicer and nicer or more aggressive? Avoid the latter, or are more cautious. It's still used as a test in my family. The first-year anniversary lament she thought he'd change. He thought she'd stay the same. When getting to know him, see if there are any positive female relationships or models in his life. I know plenty of guys whose only experience with women are their mother or a sexual partner. If their only experience with women outside of their family is based on attraction, they tend not to think of their mother as a woman and women as just regular people. If he has kids that he's not allowed to see. Appearing to be perfect. If someone appears to be perfect, then either you've made up an image of them in your head or they're really good at manipulation. If he mentions that he's a nice guy every few sentences, stay away from him. If he tells you you are awesome, I hope you find happiness with someone who loves you, don't interpret it, take it as it is. He doesn't want you or is able to be with you. Less obvious red flags. Comments. Obvious red flags. Men aren't nearly as complicated as women want them to be. Listen to their words. Take note of their actions. Notice what they don't do and don't say. I've always had female friends and it blows my mind how often women seem to believe that an asshole is just pretending and there's actually prints in there waiting to come out. No one mentioned doing menial tasks like laundry or unloading the dishwasher solely for being rewarded with sex. Can't keep a job and does not have much interest in doing so. You will grow to hate a man with no ambition. Many things can derail a person, but if he is unwilling to try, your life will be a misery. If they like or act like Andre Tate, run as far away as you can. A man who was raised by parents who did every little thing for him, gave him zero chores or responsibilities, never uttered the word no and gave in to his every want and whim is a man you should run away from as fast as you can. If you feel like you're babysitting him, get out. There is supporting your partner and there is having to treat them like a toddler because that's the only way to get through them. Also, don't be impressed with the bare minimum. He should know how to cook, he should know how to do his own laundry, he should be keeping his living space clean, he should be having proper hygiene and so on. Just like jobs, there's a 90-day probationary period. I've hired people who interviewed great, worked great for a month or two, then the racism, laziness or any other massive issue rears its ugly head. This is the same for relationships. Especially since it biologically takes us about 90 days to truly experience love on a chemical brain level. If he refuses to admit that he is wrong, and/or most of his apologies are along the line of, "I'm sorry you feel that way." If he calls himself brutally honest, or jokes about subjects that are not socially acceptable to joke about. If a guy tells me about all the girls he's fucked without being asked, great job, man. You just confirmed that you tricked all of those girls and you suck for revealing their business. If all their exes were crazy, they were probably gaslighting them. Don't date anyone without a hobby. It barely matters what it is, but it has to be something. There are orbiters who will never cross a line until the opportunity arises. They are hard to detect. My ex was crazy. Watch how they talk to treat their mother sister. If they blame everyone else but themselves and can't admit they are wrong. If you feel something is off. If they say that all of their exes are crazy, just means that he persistently does stuff that will drive people to respond erratically. If they have a bad relationship with their mom but only list vague reasons to explain why, believing in false dichotomies, it makes them more vulnerable to being radicalized into violent action. He says he doesn't know why his marriage ended. Real nice guys don't feel the need to tell you they're nice. Guys who are jealous, just move on. If they say things along the lines of "I don't deserve you, you should have someone better, everybody always leaves me," etc., it's a fucking warning. I love these mongs on Reddit. Less obvious comments. If he cheats. If they have a China flag in their room, that's a red flag. If they don't believe in or make fun of platonic friendships between men and women, money doesn't mean they aren't a scumbag. If it seems like they text back super fast all the time and get annoyed when you don't reply fast enough, they may be overly clingy and may be the jealous type who will constantly be paranoid about you cheating. Just because he will fuck you doesn't mean he is interested in you, and if all he does is want to fuck you, then he thinks of you as a hunk of meat. If someone asks you what you look for in a guy, always have some obscure things to list, then see how quickly they try to take on these traits around you. The only way a man can sweep a woman off her feet is a lot of practice. That means you are not the one, you are 327.